That actually leads me into our Cubs segment because, of course, Javy Báez, famous for his career with the Cubs. That's where he made his name. Uh, the ancestral relationship that I've often referred to between the Tigers and Cubs continues, and he is the face of that. Probably the most famous player that's played for both teams. But it was revealed I think it was when your White Sox were in town and the fleet of Chicago reporters were in Detroit, uh, basically getting back to talk to their old friend Javi. He must have been in a chatty mood because he revealed to, I think it was Jesse Rogers, that he was just 5 days away from signing a long term deal with the Cubs back in 2020. As I believe you and I actually talked about this. We may have done a few episodes about this back when we first started the podcast in at the end of 2019 and early 2020. That he, in fact, the Cubs, as was rumored at the time, the Javi and the Cubs were on the verge of making a deal, and then a global pandemic hit, scuttling any idea for long term spending for any ball club, considering we had no idea what direction the planet was going in at that point, let alone the economy, let alone the baseball economy. Uh, I found that interesting that it comes out 2 years later that Javi felt he could talk about that he was almost a Cub. He should be a Cub right now if the pandemic hadn't hit. Um, and I don't think that's, like I said, that was often rumored. We had heard about that. You and I speculated about that. You and I actually, part of that is, at least I thought that was the right move for the Cubs at the time. I thought of all of their free agents to be that he's the guy that you lock up for the longest. He's the unique talent that you can't necessarily get anywhere else on both sides of the ball. He was the straw that stirs the drink in some ways. Incredibly popular in Chicago. He just had a profile that you couldn't replace, and it makes you wonder, what the Cubs would look like today if the pandemic hit 5 days later. If that indeed was 5 days, I don't know where he came up with 5 days, like why that was specifically 5 days away from happening. It makes you wonder if potentially Anthony Rizzo would still be a Cub. It makes you wonder, what the revolving doors of history, how things change when you change one factor. Clearly, the Cubs have chosen not to sign anybody after this pandemic hit. Their strategy has completely changed because of quote unquote biblical losses that I love to talk about every week. I love to name my fantasy team named after the Rickettsville Cash Machine. Not
That's
doing so
right.
well these days. I was up to first place for a bit there. I guess I think I'm bringing this up mainly because I'm kind of annoyed that Javi would even bring it up at this point. As I am a Tigers fan, I am wearing my Tigers hat. I'm wearing my Tigers sweatshirt. I'm wearing a Tigers t-shirt. I'm actually wearing Tigers socks right now because it's kind of cold. But I do, the Cubs are my second favorite team, of course. But why is Javi talking about anything to do with the Cubs post mortem? He's 2 years removed from that situation. He is a Tiger now for the next 6 years. I kind of want him to, I think it's just strange. I guess he can talk about whatever the fuck he wants, obviously, but why is it coming up now other than the White Sox were in town? So Jesse Rogers was there to talk to him, but I just kind of bugs me. I think maybe I just have felt like he hasn't fully embraced Detroit yet. And that kind of bugs me, the way he has embraced 100% Chicago, and Chicago 100% embraced him. I'm not feeling that same thing yet with Detroit or from his side either. So maybe I'm oversensitive to that. Maybe I was too close to that, living a mile from Wrigley Field, literally for the past 20 some years. So I don't know. That just kind of rubbed me wrong that he's even bringing that up at that point. Like,
So
not
did
that
he just bring it up out of the blue, or was he specifically asked a question by
I
Jesse Rogers?
I'm sure he was asked the question. And he can
Well,
answer
then
it.
it's not on him. Then I
He
mean,
can
he's just
answer that in
answering
a
a
way.
question.
I don't think, but to give specifics, like they were 5 days away from doing it. That
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm not
it's almost like
surprised to
he's
hear that
regretting
though.
that it happened and that it didn't happen.
That
Now
it
he's
didn't
stuck with
happen.
being in Detroit. Is the way I'm looking at it. So
I mean, yeah, I don't think that's probably the case. Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
I think you're
Playing
right.
at Wrigley Field's a little bit, right at this very moment is a little bit better than playing in Detroit. But in 2 years, that may or may not be the case. You know what I'm saying?
It's hard to.
So
I mean,
I think one of the reasons he signed with Detroit because he sees the potential there too. Um,
well, I'm
but
afraid he saw
I
140
am not.
million dollars is the only reason he's here. So that's a little
Well,
bit what I need to get past, or I need to see more from him possibly. But
yeah, and I'm not shocked by that story because I mean, you and I, our thinking
yeah,
is sound. You sign Baez, and then you're able to sign Contreras because they're best buddies, and then you've got your nucleus there, and you build around that.
Word Hole Media.